Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode. Today, we're going to be looking at round two of man versus car, specifically me versus the Supra. Yes, today is a Supra video day. In the last video, well, as you all saw, I lost, but I vowed to plow on and beat this damn thing, and guess what? I have. Yes, we finally broke off the part which has been nothing but a goddamn nightmare to work with. In the last video, I said I thought I'd worked out a way to be able to get these off fairly straightforward without damaging the boots. Yeah, that was wrong. I also said I thought I could get the parts off without damaging them so that we could reuse them again. Yeah, that was also wrong. I also said I thought I could do it with purely standard tools, that I wouldn't need any specialist tools. Yeah, that was sort of wrong as well. And it all comes back to what I said about these cars before. Working with a car that's 30 years old, that's never had most of its major components changed, is a goddamn nightmare. Trying to get parts off this car is hard. It's way harder than a factory fresh car or a car that's even only 5 years old. These are a goddamn nightmare to work on. Let me show you exactly why. This right here, this is our offending piece. Now, I don't want to put my clean hands on it because it is filthy, it is dirty, it is rusted to living hell, as you can see. And I am fairly convinced that this is not the original piece that came off this car. Somebody swapped out the original and put this crap on, and this is why I've been failing MOT, because some swapped my parts. Now, I'm stuck with the legacy of that. There's virtually nothing I can do. It's been far too long, and I can't even prove where it happened. Even though I've got a suspicion of one of two places, it doesn't matter. This part has to go. This was so over-torqued, so over-tightened that I couldn't get it off. There is evidence that it may have been off as well, especially with the pins, because the pins were just too clean to match this piece. There was no way this piece had its surrounding parts that clean and this to be this dirty. So this, which is a heavy, by the way, yeah, it finally broke free. So to be precise, what you're looking at right here, this is the front lower control arm. This is what actually connects up to the car and provides part of the suspension. It is the suspension of the car. It is immensely important. And if anything's wrong with this, you have lots of trouble. Now, this was absolute nightmare to get out. And it was all particularly around here. This is the ball joint itself. Now, for some reason, Toyota decided, well, they weren't going to make them like normal ball joints. You see, in many other cars, ball joints are replaceable. They come out with the lower control arm, or you can just take them off the lower control arm and leave it in the car. But in the Supra, you can't do that. These arms, these factory arms here, yeah, the ball joint is not removable. That is fixed. Now, there are people in the community who've worked out ways to pull them out, but you know, it's a real catch-22. It's very difficult to do. You really need to be a specialist. You have to buy replacement parts to have it done. And at the end of the day, you're only going back in with a replacement arm with a kind of modification. What I decided to do instead was go because race car. Yes, this is our replacement lower control arm. This is going to go in and replace that one. One of the big features about the racing control arm is that we now have this adaptability. We have more flexibility, more control over our entire suspension setup. Having these extra features, it allows us to play more with the geometry for the car. So we can actually make the car better set up than with the factory arms. Now, I know what you're probably saying is, are you better than factory? Well, remember, factory is for standard GT driving with standard factory fresh parts. We don't have them on this car. We're gonna have aftermarket dampers or shock absorbers. We're gonna have aftermarket suspension. We've got all sorts of aftermarket components on it that really allow this car to go to another level. And in order to do that, we have to be fairly consistent. And this extra functionality that comes through with these parts, it gives us more capability to be just a little bit more precise than factory. I didn't need to go off and buy the Toyota SSTs, the special service tools. I didn't need them. They cost a fortune. Start thinking hundreds and hundreds for the Toyota special service tools, which are tools designed specifically for this car to do specific things. And one of them is a ball joint separator. Now, that was hundreds and hundreds to buy. In the end, I went with other tools that worked every bit as well. And the total spend on tools, extra tools for this car, was just £30. In reality, I only needed one. So I did have to go out and spend £15 to buy a specialist tool for that. And the specialist tool was actually something incredibly simple. It was this. This is nothing more than a ball joint fork separator. Nothing else worked. I couldn't make a damn thing move until this came into play. Within 10 minutes of using this, I had the ball joint off, as opposed to hours and hours and hours of trying various other methods that people have recommended. It just didn't work. Obviously, it's going to be very different for different people doing different cars. But for me, I found, well, bashing really didn't do a damn thing. Hitting with two hammers on either side, trying to shock release it, just didn't work. Same with heat, really didn't do a damn thing. All the sprays in the world were never going to work because, well, they couldn't get into the spots that were jammed. What did work was simply brute force with the fork hammer and just smash it in. And I mean smash it in. I went into full-blown Australian mode there. No, I don't have any footage of that. That's probably a very good thing that we don't have footage of it. I was very, very angry trying to do this, which didn't help a lot, but we got there in the end. You cannot be polite with these things, unfortunately. You can't just lightly tap them. You need to lay into them. Full-blown, smash the crap out of them. You do need to be cautious. You don't want to break things, but they're not going to go anywhere if you don't absolutely beat the living. I also maintain that if you are a professional garage doing this on a regular basis, this actually probably isn't that hard. If you've got really good tools, which you would being a garage, if you've got that high quality tools and the knowledge and the experience, I really think this would be pretty straightforward to do, even on an older car like this. Yes, I know there's a lot of complaining and it's a very physically demanding thing, but honestly, I reckon good shops, they could probably have this done very, very quickly. It wouldn't be such a big, extensive job. For the home DIY person, the best way I can describe doing this job, it is an absolute. The end result is I'm up, I'm winning, I've got the damn part off. I'm now going to roll on putting the new one on, and then I'm going to start on the others. And hopefully, they're all going to go a lot quicker because I've now got the experience of this one, the nuances of this car, how things work, what doesn't work. I know where not to waste my time. I know how to get straightforward on it. And that's going to help even on the back ones because, well, it's very similar process. It's about time I shut up, got the rest of this done, we got the suspension on, and start getting this thing back on the road. Let's go. Okay, let me just interrupt here to show you what we've been up to with our lower control arms, because there's a little bit more to it than simply plugging it in. It's kind of close, but we're not there. So the very first thing I've had to do is take off the adapter plate from the old arm. Now that can be seen here. This is our new lower control arm, and this is the adapter plate. This is what our strut connects to and our drop link from our anti-roll bar or sway bar. This component simply bolts on to the lower control arm with two major bolts. All of that's fine. We even have a fitting bracket. It's all gone on perfectly. Now, there are some other things we've had to do with this, and you will notice I've had to pull out some grease. You see, this is a racing control arm, and well, it's a little different from the factory control arms. Because it's got more features, more capability, it does mean it's a little bit more exposed. Now, it is a different type of metal. This is a more modern metallurgy. This is far less likely to suffer from rust, but to be safe, I've decided to give it extra protection that it wouldn't ordinarily have. I want to make sure this thing really goes the distance. Now to do that, what we've done is put on our own dust boots. Now, the problem that we've had with these is, well, they literally don't make them for these parts. And as racing parts, they tend not to bother with them. So what I had to do, I had to go out and buy an assortment of various dust boots and different sizes to see if I could make any of these work. And I did. These are what I'm talking about. These are dust boots. You can see they're just little rubber covers, actually just go over the joints and they form a nice protective seal. Now, in the case of our bracket, they're never going to be perfect. They're not going to be as good as factory. You don't actually need them with this control arm. The manufacturers do say metallurgy should handle all weather conditions, but just to be safe, I put on my own protection. Now, at the same time, I decided to also put some grease in around them because the grease will also help protect against water and grit and dirt, anything that could try and get into these dust boots. So hopefully that's going to give it just that little bit more protection that it didn't have and really make these things last. If I was going to say there's a weakness with these things, that would be it. Now, on the ordinary factory arms, you'd only ever have one nut at the top. Because this is aftermarket, because race car, we've got a second nut at the bottom. So we've now got two, which means I've got two joints to protect, whereas the OEM only ever had one. I've also got another two to do in here because these are a different type of bushing. And as you can see, I've already started setting that up. So we have our bushings covered in. All of them will have dust boots and protection on, and this will be ready to go in the car. This has been a very fiddly, painstaking process to get right. It's been back and forward with all of these different boots, trying to see which ones would fit, which ones wouldn't, which worked, which doesn't. None of them are perfect. It's a case of get the best we can, double it up in some cases, so we're actually using a boot over a boot, and when we're applying a whole ton of grease as well to try and really protect all of our bearings. Again, that is most likely complete unnecessary overkill, but how can it hurt? It's going to do nothing more than give us even more protection, and this is going to go on and just look amazing. So without further ado, I'm going to get on with completing that now. We've got the rest of the bearings to do. This is only going to take a minute, although it's taken ages to get to this point. Hopefully I'll get this done very, very soon. We're going to get it on the car and bolt this whole thing up. So stick with me as I take this, get it all finished, and we'll put it on that. Let's go. Okay, to go through the technicals, what's been done, where we're at. Am I winning? Yes, I'm winning. Let me show you what's been done. Now, this has been an epic fight. This thing has put up a goddamn massive fight. So we now have our actual new lower control arm is actually on the car here. It's this blue component you can see here, and it is on. It is all connected, but nothing is torqued up yet. Now, this thing put up a fight. It put up an epic fight. Pretty much every bolt in here was nearly seized. Everything didn't want to go. I had to do a ton of makeshift presses just to get things to fit, to move things around, to space things apart. Nothing went back exactly the way it came out. In fact, I'm fairly sure that if I tried to fit this old arm, it would not go back in. Everything is shifted around now. Once the pressure was released, everything just changed. Even the gaps, the tolerances, everything just didn't fit anymore. So I've spent the better part of 2 days trying to force everything back into shape. But we've won. We have absolutely won. We have got our new lower control arm on the car. It looks brilliant, even though, well, you can't see it. That's the only problem. But it's on. It looks great. We've cleaned up the area a lot. We're now going to start putting everything back together. In the beginning, the wheel nuts were a problem. Getting the wheel off, well, that was a little tricky as well. Getting the caliper bolts off, couldn't do it. Had to only take the carrier off. Luckily, that was all that was needed. Then there was the big bolts. All of these didn't want to go, and I think they'd been over-tightened previously. They were just awful, so difficult to get off. It was swinging with breaker bars on even the smallest little bolts. They just didn't want to go. We did destroy one, and that's a future problem, but for now it doesn't need to come undone. The main bolts holding on the lower control arm, well, they were a colossal problem, but we finally got them off. We have destroyed the alignment on this car. This car is so far out of alignment now, it's not funny. It's ridiculous. And just like that, we have now got one wheel done. Yes, we won in the battle of me versus Supra. man versus machine, I've just taken a small victory, a kind of hollow victory, because I've got another 3 wheels to do. I've still got to do this rear wheel. I've still got to do the wheels on this side. So this wheel here, all of them, I have to repeat the experience that I just went through with this front side one, and I'm not really looking forward to it. Now, for the eagle-eyed viewer, you also will notice something hilariously bad. And this was expected. We knew this would be the case. It's part of the plan, but the alignment on this is, well, it's a little wonky. When I say wonky, I mean, it is so out of alignment, it's not funny. This thing's not even on the same planet. The front wheels are sitting in different dimensions. The whole thing is just completely screwed alignment-wise. But that was part of the plan. The plan was never for me to do the alignment, because yes, you can do alignment at home, but I really feel you want the proper specialist gear to do a 4-wheel alignment needed on this car. So to do that, I'm going to take it somewhere. Once this is all done, we're going to put it on a trailer and we're going to take it to a proper alignment place and get all 4 wheels done. Looking straight on at the car, you can actually clearly see it. That wheel is slightly turned because it's all wrong. It's got its race grade front lower control arm, and this one doesn't. This side is dead straight. Looks good, looks great. Come around to this side, and this one's doing an impersonation of the Hubble telescope right now because it is so far off looking at anything else. It's not funny. So this car, yes, the plan now is to crack on and get the rest of it done. Get all the suspension completed on the rest of this car so that we can take it to an alignment specialist. But there is one problem. You see, I'm missing some parts. Yes, I don't have everything required yet. And I know that sounds nuts, and the reason is I didn't know exactly how many dust boots I would need. And well, I'm short a few. It turns out that to fit just one of these, I need 8 dust boots. Yes, I need a lot to go on that car. And they've got to be really good ones too. I can't just use the cheap eBay stuff. So I've ordered more dust boots because, well, the ones I got there weren't enough of them. I had to buy a variety pack. I've used all the ones up, so I've bought more. It could take some time to get here. So whilst I can go ahead and continue working on this car, one thing I can't do is fit these new suspension pieces because I just don't have enough dust boots. Once I've got them, I'll be able to put it all back on the car and we'll get it off it. That could be some time. I'm hoping to get those dust boots within a week, but certainly suspension-wise, I'm gonna have to put a hold on it here right now until I got those new parts. But that doesn't mean we stop on the car because there's still a lot more to do. So in the battle of man versus machine, me versus Supra, I'm winning. There's a long way to go yet. It's not over, but there's no question we're gonna win. It's just a matter of time, effort, and a little bit of extra ongoing costs to make sure we get this damn thing the way we need it. So we're gonna shift focus, and we're gonna shift focus to this. This is the motor for the passenger window. Well, this is the old one. It's broken, it's junk, and I'm tempted to just throw it away. I won't, there might be something in it, but I've got a new one, and we're gonna get onto this now. This is the next task we're gonna take on because, well, I really need this thing working to be able to take it anywhere at all. In the meantime, now, let's crack on with the passenger window motor, and we'll see if we can get that one sorted. Let's go. Okay, car's in, and we can now start working on the passenger window motor, which is obviously behind here. So we're gonna get onto that, but there are some other updates I should give you. As you know, we've got other things to go on, and this Supra it's killing me time-wise. It's taking so much of my time, it's not funny, and I've got other things to do. So I've also got to do the Stinger. We've got parts coming for it, which are more cool parts. It's not repairs, that's upgrades and improvements to make that thing look absolutely sick. At the same time, the Supra, well, it's in this garage and it's not getting the time it deserves. We've done these race grade lines here, but we haven't done them on the other side where the Supra is sitting. So we've got to do that. We've also got the cabinetry in here, and I've got this backyard to do. My grass is finally growing. It's growing very well. That area out there was, that's a different story. If you're interested in why that patch looks wrong, let me know and I'll talk about gardening. But otherwise, yeah, that's a work in progress. That's all going to grow. We're going to mow that soon, and then we're going to build an extension canopy over it. Nothing like what you're thinking, but we're going to be putting something out there for a third car that will be removable. In the summer, we'll be able to leave this nice and exposed for a very cool looking lawn. And in the winter, we're going to be able to have it enclosed to protect against the rain. So that's a big task. And what you don't see is out on the other side of that, all the way across there, is way more lawn that I've still got to do. An entire yard, an entire house yard needs to be completely done. That's an entirely non-car problem that I've got to find the time to do. Not to mention building a huge lean-to in there, which again, has nothing to do with cars and you're not going to be interested in. There may be some delays in getting stuff out for this car and also for this car whilst I get all the stuff back in here done. I'm still going to do everything I can to make sure the priority is on this car because that's really what I want to do. This is fun, this is enjoyable. Apart from the fact when it's fighting back, it's a nightmare. But once you get the end result, it's really cool. And I really want to do more of this. Lightly restoring cars, lightly redoing ones that aren't crash damage. I think I might just pick up some other cars. I've even got my eye on one. I don't want to talk about it at the moment because it may not happen, but we've got room for a third car out there, technically fourth and fifth if you count the other areas. 2 here, we've got room for 2 here. I have room for another 6 out here. I can put cars galore out here. Now, I don't want to do that. I don't want to upset the neighbors. So out here will never be a car storage space. But the front yard also is going to completely change. We're going to be putting an area here for cars again. It's going to look classy. It's going to look cool. It needs to fit in with the area. But yeah, this front yard, it's also going to be a very cool car park, if you like. It will look awesome. The neighbors are going to love it. But this is the priority for now. Getting this task done is number one. However, I run into blockers with it. I've got to put it on hold for bits and pieces. I've got other things that will surge in priority. I've got to do them. So for now, just be aware, there could be some mixed delays in when this stuff comes out on video, but I'll do my best to get everything out as fast as possible. I've also noticed, unfortunately with this car, more problems. So moving the car now, I noticed what looks like a power steering leak, which I knew about and I thought had been sorted. So the 2 shops which were supposed to fix the power steering leak, yeah, they didn't fix it, the lazy stole my parts. That car now has a power steering leak I'm gonna have to look at, supposed to be solved, wasn't, and I'm a bit worried about some of the smoke coming out. It could be the very common problem on these cars, which is the valve stem seals, and they may be causing a problem on this car. So maybe I'll have to start thinking about ripping off the valve cover and looking at the valves and seeing if I can replace them. That's another task. It never ends with this thing. For now, let's get on with this passenger motor window. Let's see what we can do there. Hopefully we make some progress on this. Okay, so now we're about to tackle the passenger window motor because as I've mentioned a few times, this thing's broken. So we're about to rip this open. Let me walk you through what's there. Now, the passenger side window, it's a disaster. Let me show you. So we open up the door here and the first thing we're gonna have to do is to get this card off. So this is what they call the door card. The door trim itself, all of this pulls away from the door. Mostly it's all clips. Unfortunately, some are broken or may get broken in this process. That's what we're going to use a specialist clip removal tool. It's just a plastic that gets under and clips it away. This is actually in pretty reasonable condition for what it is, so we should be able to clean all this up. The speaker comes away with it. Most of these switches all come away with it. So this whole thing just sort of comes away. Behind it is the motor. So let's get on and do that, and we'll show you exactly what's going on. Okay. So we've now got the door card off and we've exposed what we need to expose. Now, yes, I know it's a mess. Yes, I know how awful it looks in here. Believe me, I know. I'm looking at it and a lot of it's because of me. So to explain what you're seeing, this is the basic cover. It's basically a piece of plastic they put on to prevent moisture and anything else getting into the back of the car and potentially into the car. This has been ripped and it's been torn, but it is just plastic. It's just plastic sheeting. It can very easily be repaired or replaced, and it's never seen. It just needs to do a basic job, so it's easy. I'm not too worried about this being ripped or torn. I'm going to preserve whatever I can of this, but it's not useful. The old speaker boxes that used to be in here, they're gone because the 90s grade speakers, well, they were shockingly bad. Like, you don't want 90s grade speakers in your car. They're terrible. They're massive, huge, heavy boxes that don't produce a fraction of the sound a modern speaker, just a speaker can. So they went a long time ago. I believe I still have them, but they're junk. Come on, you don't want them in your car. When this first failed, I put in another motor in the hope that it would work. It doesn't. It never works because of the socket on the end. So the next job is to get this out, put in the proper one. That's going to require a little bit of retrofitting. It's not a direct fit. It's damn close, but not. After that, I'm then going to plug in the switch here and see if I can just make the window work. And that'll be a huge relief if I can do that. At the same time, the speaker wiring, best not talk about the speaker wiring. It's dodgy, it's crappy, and it was like that when I bought it. So I've never fixed it because this has always had a problem. So let's get on with it. Let's get this fixed. Oh, it's always the way with these things. So we finally put in our new motor. We put it in for a test run. It's not connected to the regulator. It works. It all seems to do what it's supposed to, except we found an additional problem. Our switch is not working. And it's not that the switch was broken before, it might have been, but this motor would not work in testing. We could not use it from the other switch. We could not use it from this switch. It didn't work when physically connected. It just didn't work. So the old motor was stuffed and we had to replace it. So we've done that, and it turns out it's not the only thing that was broken. Now the switch doesn't go both ways. So the switch is only doing one way. It's just fantastic. I swear to God, this car hates me because one problem turns into 10. In fact, it's more than that. This is a goddamn nightmare. Something that should be simple has turned into something very difficult. We did actually solve the motor problem. I won in that respect, but then the car said, oh, you want to fix that problem? Well, I'll give you 10 more. Okay, let me just explain what has gone completely wrong with installing the new motor for the passenger window, because it's only half worked. So when this thing was last working, what we found was it suddenly stopped. It just stopped working. Nothing would make the window go up and down. We took the motor out and we couldn't make the motor work. So we figured, yeah, it's the motor. We've taken the motor off. I put a new motor in. And we've got more problems. The new motor that's gone in, it works. It works fine. It works really well. And it's not from a Supra. It's actually from a Celica, the details of which I'll put in the comments. But yeah, this is not a Supra motor. It's identical in every way, and it works. It works really well. What doesn't work anymore, or stopped working, is the switches. See, the switch on this side, it only works down. It doesn't work up. The switch on the other side works on both intermittently. It's not the motor, because you take the motor off and you connect it and it works fine. It's now either the switches or the regulator. Here's what I think's gone wrong with this one now. What I think's happened is, because this was a very long-standing problem, this motor was not working for ages, and I just left it. Admittedly, I did nothing about it. I didn't need the passenger window, so it was always a do it another time job. Well, I think I waited too long, and I think not using the window for so long, it's meant a ton of stuff's moved. Trying to change it, having it set up as a temporary measure, has sort of screwed up all of the alignment in here, and I don't think it goes up very well. I have tried re-greasing it, and that has helped, but we're still getting an intermittent problem. When I flip the driver's switch, I can actually hear it trying to push this thing up. Very weak, and it does sound like it just suddenly gives up. If I do it repeatedly, it will finally work. The passenger side switch, it's dead. It doesn't do a thing. So now I've got to work out those problems. What I think's happened is a very common problem in the windows here, and I think it's happened independently of the problem with the motor. What I think's happened is the soldering on the switches has begun to fail. It's well known in these cars that after a period of time, the soldering in the switches goes. So I'm gonna have to open it up, have a look, and see if it's a continuity error. I think that's the problem. I think that switch has just failed, it's broken. I may need to get a new switch, or I might be able to repair the old one, but fairly sure that's the problem. The driver's side one I can't really explain. I think that might be the regulator. I think this regulator is sat for so long that it's just shot. It's probably been trying to wind incorrectly, created too much load, put itself out of alignment. It's worn, it's screwed, and now I may need to get a new regulator. That was the last thing I needed, but I'm going to do some further testing. Let's see where we go. Hopefully, fingers crossed, I can just make this work. But yeah, it's not looking good. In this battle, I think I'm losing. So in this round, in this battle between man versus machine, me versus Supra, well, it's a tie at the moment. I'm winning. I put in a motor that you shouldn't be able to get in this thing that not only works, it works really well. The problem is the car has come back at me with a big right hook and just smacked me the out. This has more problems that shouldn't be there. They weren't there. This was not happening. I didn't have this before. And now I've got these new problems which just came out of the blue and I've got to solve them. So in man versus machine right now, it's a draw. This thing's gonna lose. We'll get this window fixed, just like we'll get the suspension fixed. Yeah, this car, 2 problems in, and it's just problems after problems after problems that really shouldn't exist. And I wonder how many other Supra owners have this level of just constant new problems coming up. It's ridiculous. This car hates me. So, you know the problems that we got at the moment. What are we going to do about them? How are we going to fix this? Well, the next thing for me to do is to start looking at the electrics, the actual wiring of the doors, try and figure it out. If it is the switches, we'll start with the switch, see if it's failed, check the other one, see where it is, see if it's a regulator, maybe that's the problem. We'll work that out, and then we'll start looking at buying new parts if we need to, or just refurbishing what we have to, and we may have to do that. Suspension-wise, while we're waiting on new parts to come in, we need the dust boot covers for the front and rear new arms that are sitting over there. We can't put them on until we have them. Obviously, I could start on this, but then it's going to be sitting up on axle stands and I can't move it. So we're going to wait for that. Once we've got these new parts in the car, and once the window is properly working, we're then going to put it on the trailer and we're going to take it to a proper place that can actually do a proper alignment. I'm not going to attempt to do an alignment on this car myself. I'm not getting out string and all that nonsense and trying to do that here. That's just insanity. And it's very difficult when I can't lift the car to a full height. We really need a shop that can do that. So it's going to get taken somewhere on a trailer. They will do the alignment. They'll get it all sorted out. And then finally it'll be back. And then we can really start on it, because what we're doing at the moment, it's just scratching the tip of the iceberg. So for now, in this battle, in this round, I'd call it a draw. We had a huge win. We kicked this in getting the suspension on that. It put up a massive fight, and we really didn't think we were going to get there. We won. We then won again with an amazing retrofit of a part we were told you could not fit. It not only didn't fit, it works. It works brilliantly. But then out of the blue, the car decided to shove a few extra goals at us, and we took a couple of big losses there, because more work to do, more offensive stuff to do on this car to get it working. So that's where we're at. That's the plan. Hopefully you've enjoyed at least some parts of this video. If you have, don't forget to subscribe, because there's more videos coming and you're going to get to see all the changes to this as we make it work, and we will make it work, not to mention all the changes to this, because this is just going to look sick when we're done. For now, again, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to hit subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Simon out.
the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up!